Part 45. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 441. The 80th floor. On the world tree, Lin Suiying and Xiaoli sat together, and the mother and daughter looked at the majestic figure in the sky at the same time. Dad is so awesome. Xiaoli spun happily. Lin Suiying smiled. Xiaoli, you have to work hard too, don't lose to Dad. That's too difficult. Xiaoli whispered in Lin Suiying's ear, Mom, let me tell you a secret, Dad will automatically become stronger, every time I think I can surpass him, he will become a little stronger. So it's impossible to surpass Dad. Lin Suiying held her forehead. How could such a thing happen? It's just that her husband is too talented. Xiaoli is still too simple-minded after all, and she can actually have such a ridiculous idea. The 90th floor. After a few words of conversation between the mother and daughter, Su Xian has already stepped onto the 90th floor of the sky, and all the strong men in the two worlds are excited to watch this scene. The Thousand Machine King made history. They are also witnessing history. The 90th floor finally changed a little. It was no longer a pure heavenly staircase, but a black staircase with patterns carved on it. The moment he stepped on the 90th floor, Su Xian paused. The black staircase in front of him suddenly changed and turned into a hazy figure, which rolled in the chaos, possessing a breath far more terrifying than that of a demigod. Just by looking at the figure, before he could see his appearance clearly, Su Xian felt that his soul was hit extremely strongly. His eyes went dark and he almost fell backwards. He almost fell down the 90th floor of the heavenly staircase. Wow! At that moment, all the strong men in the two worlds were worried about Su Xian. They didn't expect that Su Xian, who had walked so easily on the 90th floor before, would almost fall down. It seems that the 90th floor and above are not at the same level as before. I was so proud of myself when I reached the 60th floor before, but now it seems that I am still a long way from the real limit. What are those black stairs? They can cause such a serious obstacle to the Thousand Machine King. Come on, Thousand Machine King, let me witness a miracle that will shock the world. The demigods were more nervous than Su Xian himself. At this time, Su Xian had adjusted his state and was ready to attack the next floor. If I guessed correctly, the figure on the 90th floor should be the spiritual projection of a super boss in the chaotic universe. If it weren't for his powerful soul power, I'm afraid he would have really fallen. Will there be a super boss who created the Tower of Delusion, Death, and Despair? Su Xian guessed in his heart. If he said who was the most powerful in his cognition, it would naturally be this person. If the black stairs were all the spiritual projections of the bosses, then maybe it would be of some benefit to him. Come again. Su Xian stepped into the 92nd floor. At that moment, his mental power was once again pulled to a vast chaotic universe. He still didn't recognize the figure this time, but it also caused a strong shock to him. The two worlds are indeed not enough in front of these super beings. Su Xian sighed in his heart. No wonder those Chaos Universe bosses can use the lives of the two worlds as chess pieces, and even the Abyss world is used by them. The gap is indeed too big. In front of the real super god level strongman, a small life world is not enough. Enter the 93rd floor again. The projection is displayed. This time, Su Xian finally felt a little familiar. Although he was very unfamiliar with the projection, he could feel a familiar breath. Abyss. Yes, the person on the 93rd floor has the breath of the Abyss. Perhaps this person is the terrifying existence that controls the Abyss world. Then are there such terrifying masters behind Blue Star and Lulan Star? Su Xian thought in his heart. He knew that the power of the Abyss world is far from comparable to the two worlds. Perhaps the two worlds are children without parents. As for the behind-the-scenes promoters of Lulan Star, those beings called God's envoys are not the controllers of Lulan Star, but are just using Lulan Star to lay out their plans. This has long been obvious. If the gods' envoys really care about the 10,000 races, they will not sit and watch the 10,000 races be destroyed. It can only be said that the value of the 10,000 races has been squeezed out, and life and death have nothing to do with those gods' envoys. The 94th floor. Su Xian gathered his thoughts and went up one more floor. There are so many floors above. Judging from the aura, each floor should be stronger than the previous one, and there are several people who are stronger than the Abyss Master. The projection reappeared. He had never seen the projection of the 94th floor, but he had also felt this aura when he was on the battlefield between the two worlds. At that time, a virus called Violent Plague spread. His disciple Miao Tian was also infected with this plague and gained superpower. So the spreader of the Violent Plague is also one of the strongest in the Chaos universe. Could it be that even he could not figure out the cure for the Violent Plague? He could only suppress it temporarily anyway. Now it seems normal. He has not yet reached the point of competing with such a super boss. Come again. Su Xian was excited. He seemed to feel more relaxed after seeing the strongest in the Chaos universe one after another. Stepping on the 95th floor. A familiar breath again. Su Xian was stunned for a moment. He clearly realized that this boss was the creator of the Sky Spirit Road. Perhaps he is the only one in the Chaos universe in terms of soul. 96. Entering the 96th floor again, it was still a familiar atmosphere. Su Xian was stunned. How could he have come into contact with the power of so many big guys invisibly? It seems that it is not only the owner of the Tower of Despair who spreads his will in various small worlds. Other big guys are also spreading the will of gods or spreading inheritance in various ways. The 96th floor. It is the most intimate atmosphere Su Xian has felt so far. Because she comes from his wife Lin Suying, or from the Water Moon Sword, from the Mirror Flower Water Moon technique. Is Suying's teacher a big guy of this level? Su Xian felt that things seemed to become complicated all of a sudden. Since Suying's teacher was so powerful, he only needed to move his fingers to solve the crisis of all races, but he did not intervene. Prove that he also has concerns. It seems that the battlefield between the two worlds is a key chess piece in the game between the most powerful big guys in the chaotic universe. 97. Su Xian's curiosity grew stronger and stronger. Who is next? Boom. Stepping onto the 97th floor, this time there was a strange but slightly familiar aura, like the aura of the divine messenger who was confronting the nine-tailed fox. But in his perception, the divine messenger should be much worse than these strongest people. How could he be ranked on the 97th floor? Or was everything that happened on the sky just an illusion, and the nine-tailed fox was actually completely deceived by this divine messenger, and the two sides seemed to be completely on a different level? It's getting more and more wrong. Su Xian looked solemn as he stepped onto the 98th floor again. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 442. 98th floor. The moment he stepped onto that floor, Su Xian was almost bounced back. The projection of the 98th floor was like a powerful person who had walked out of the universe at its infancy. His breath was restrained, but the fluctuations he emitted from time to time were still terrifying. The countless stars in the chaotic universe seemed to be crawling at his feet. It was as if he was the fate of all the worlds. Su Xian just watched his back as he walked towards the depths of a certain world and sat there. All the life in the world dared not set foot on his territory. Until Su Xian's eyes fell on him through the endless chaotic void, he slowly turned around, and his eyes collided with Su Xian through the endless void. That was not the contempt of the superior for the inferior. It was a kind of heat of meeting a worthy opponent. The moment their eyes collided, Su Xian's mental power could no longer bear it, and the projection disappeared. The 98th floor of the sky was condensed. Countless strong men in the two worlds were shocked. Although they could not see what Su Xian experienced, they could feel the changes in the breath of the two worlds. The higher the level, the stronger the sense of oppression brought by the breath. Is the aura that is emanating so terrifying? What did the Thousand Machine King experience? In Su Xian's perception, it seemed that time passed very quickly, but in the outside world, 10 days and 10 nights had already passed. Even the Thousand Machine King had a hard time, so you can imagine how difficult this latter is. Even if all the demigods of the two worlds join together, they may not be able to condense one layer. Well, let's wait and see. Before, we guessed that the 99 layers of the sky ladder were the limit, and now the 98 layers have been condensed. I'm really looking forward to it. The 98 layers seemed to have crossed the two worlds and led to the chaotic void. Everyone's heart was tightened. What is the 99 layers? Will there be 100 layers that exceed the limit? Under the gaze of countless eyes, Su Xian stepped onto the 99 layers in one step. The moment his foot stepped on the sky ladder, the entire two worlds shook. The ancient bell rang one after another, until the entire two worlds were in the echo of the ancient bell. At that moment, Su Xian's soul left his body, and he felt the familiar breath again, with delusion, death, and despair advancing layer by layer. In that person's eyes, delusion is enough to destroy life, but it is the most insignificant original sin. Death is the fear of many lives, but compared to despair, death seems to be a kind of relief, and despair is the real horror. 3 feelings, progressive. Su Xian was almost depressed, but he quickly came back to his senses. Although he was not as good as those super bosses, he was not killed by a projection. After feeling it once, his soul adapted a lot. At the same time, he could feel that the strength of his body and mental power was increasing at an extremely exaggerated rate. It was so outrageous that he had the illusion that he could punch through land seeing. Is this the real gap between the semi-god realm and the king realm? Now Su Xian easily controls countless chaotic origin forces, which can pose enough threat to a life world. One step further, it is a life that can break away from the life world and survive completely independently in the chaotic universe. In this world, this is called the God realm. It is somewhat different from the gods understood in the previous life, but it is also a powerful life form. Boom! The 99 layers of the sky are condensed. At this moment, not only the two worlds, but even the abyss can hear the melodious ancient bell sound. Who? Blue star. Who is breaking through? It caused such a huge commotion. The oldest monarchs of the abyss felt it most clearly. They knew that the abyss was about to connect with the blue star world, and they were also looking forward to swallowing this world. The abyss had already infiltrated blue star. Regarding the combat power of blue star, several monarchs of the abyss are relatively clear. According to the information they collected, it is very easy for the abyss world to swallow blue star. Even if Legoland star is added, it is not a big deal. Besides, Legoland star has long lost its combat power. They thought that this journey would not be challenging, but the ancient bell sound that penetrated the 3 life worlds surprised them and ignited their fighting spirit. It's been a long time since the strong have competed with each other. I really miss it. Several monarchs of the abyss gathered together. I have just asked the spirit of Yamata no Orokai to spy on the situation of Blue Star. The one who caused the breakthrough this time was Blue Star's strongest king Su Xian. Speaking of which, Su Xian has a lot of connections with our abyss. When we wanted to enter the abyss through the media space before, it was Su Xian who destroyed the media space that was almost built. Su Xian was still very weak at that time, but now he has grown to this point. It is because of him that Blue Star can defeat Lowland Star. The monarchs quickly dug up Su Xian's history. The chiming monarch sighed, it would be great if such a powerful warrior was born in our abyss world. It's a pity to become an opponent. It's not a pity, at least it can increase the fun of our journey this time. If we push all the way, what's the point? That's right. Su Xian's existence can at least give us some sense of accomplishment when we win. I vaguely remember that the last world we swallowed has been too long. The Abyss monarchs missed the past. When the Abyss world was just born, it was formed by devouring countless small life worlds, thus forming the current 108 layers of the Abyss. Now the Abyss has not collided with the life world for a long time. Huanquan monarch sighed, remember the last time in that life world, there was only one strong man who was on par with us, and was revered as the Nine Heavens Queen by the people of that world. Chiming monarch said, yes, that time you and I almost got killed by her when we joined forces. Such a powerful opponent is really nostalgic. In the end, it was the 8 of us who joined forces, plus the assistance of other monarchs, to barely surround and kill her. I wonder how Su Xian compares to the Nine Heavens Queen this time. The sadness of only one strong man is destined to be the sadness of this world. Every time they talk about this, the Abyss monarchs have a deep sense of pride. Because they climb to the top step by step from the world of the survival of the fittest, it is such a rule that makes the Abyss life far stronger than other life. The Abyss never needs mutual support during the Civil War, only fighting and challenging. Its survival rules destined the strength of the Abyss to far exceed that of other life worlds. There were so many small life worlds at the beginning, but now there are only a few left. The Abyss world is still strong, and getting stronger. I wonder how far the strongest life on Blue Star can go on the road above the 99 steps. I hope he can go a little further. Bring us more conquests and achievements. The monarch stared at Su Xian, who had already surpassed the 99 steps and stepped into the nothingness above the sky, disappearing from everyone's sight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 443. Above the 99th floor. When Su Xian came here, he entered a completely unfamiliar world. This is a road that crosses the entire chaotic universe. No one knows where it starts and where it leads to. There is a river below the road. The river exudes the power of time. Standing on the road, Su Xian can see countless scenes of the world flashing in the river. The past, present, and future can all find answers in the long river of time. But the farther it leads to the future, the more turbulent the river becomes. About all kinds of things in the future, only vague things can be seen. Su Xian just walked forward along the road that crosses the chaotic universe. He can see thousands of floating stars in the universe. But although there are many stars, bright and dazzling, there are very few with the breath of life. He just walked like this. I don't know how long he walked. He walked until he lost his perception of himself. After a long time, Su Xian seemed to see the end of the road. It seemed like the end, but also like the starting point to a certain world. There was a figure sitting alone fishing. He held a long fishing rod and cast the line into the long river of time below. Su Xian did not feel any breath on him. He was much weaker than the weakest human baby, as small as an ant. Such a feeling shocked Su Xian. How could a being that could fish on the long river of time be so weak? It can only be said that the other party has completely merged with the chaotic universe, so he can't feel any strong breath on the fishing figure. Su Xian walked over slowly. The fisherman didn't seem to care about him. Su Xian didn't know the meaning of this road. He sat down next to the fisherman, turned his eyes, and looked at the fisherman's face. He couldn't see anything about the figure that was so close. He could only see a blur. Even the will of the chaotic universe was preventing him from peeping. Su Xian's eyes moved down along the hanging line again, looking at the surging long river of time, still seeing nothing. There was no hook on the hanging line at all. The waves of the long river of time beat the fish hook, and it rose and fell with the waves. Su Xian took a deep breath. He couldn't see, and couldn't get out. He could only take the last resort. Boom! Su Xian slapped the fisherman without hesitation, and slapped him hard on the face. At this moment, the fisherman finally moved. He slowly looked at Su Xian. In his eyes, Su Xian was so clear, but in Su Xian's eyes, the fisherman was still a blur. Su Xian concentrated his mind. He was eager to see the figure in front of him clearly. In the state of exhausting his soul power, the blurry light and shadow in front of him finally slowly unraveled. A little bit. A little bit. The other person's appearance made him feel extremely familiar, but so strange. Boom. Just when Su Xian met those eyes, the other person's eyes burst out with a brilliant light, and actually knocked Su Xian off the road directly, and his body couldn't control falling into the long river of time below. Plop! As his body fell into the long river, Su Xian felt his body being washed by the mighty power of the long river of time, and his consciousness sank. After an unknown period of time, when his consciousness was restored, he had returned to the blue star sky. Under his feet, the 100th step condensed. It's been a month. The 1000 Machine King has finally returned. The 100th step has broken the legendary limit. I wonder what is above the 99th step. It's a pity that we mediocre people will never see it in our lifetime. The strong men in the demigod realm sighed. At this time, the sound of the ancient bell had disappeared, and the sky step slowly dissipated layer by layer. Thousands of golden lights gathered on Su Xian. In the end, everything returned to calm. The most powerful demigod in history was born. Before Su Xian fell, a figure had already rushed straight into the sky and crashed into Su Xian's arms. A breakthrough lasted for more than 1.5 months. This made Lin Suiying worry for more than 40 days and nights. Fortunately, her husband successfully broke through, and she could no longer suppress her excitement. Buried in Su Xian's arms, she sobbed softly. Do you know? When you stepped above the 99, I was so scared. It felt like you suddenly disappeared from this world, and I couldn't feel any breath of you. Fortunately, you are back. Lin Suiying cried and confided. The 2 children in her arms are already 7 months old, and her belly is also bulging. Now her identity is first a mother and a wife, and secondly a member of the Blue Star. She doesn't want the father to have an accident before the child is born. Don't worry, I won't leave in the future. Su Xian hugged her in his arms and comforted her softly. Dad. Xiaoli also rushed over. Many disciples were also watching nervously. They were excited and saw that the teacher had created the greatest miracle in the 2 worlds. That was the 100th level of the sky. Not only did it far exceed the record of the demigods of the 2 worlds, it also broke the limit legend in history. Congratulations, Master. Yin Xiaoshuang's eyes were filled with tears, and she was missing him. Mutio Yu, Master has become such a great being. When can you come back? Congratulations, teacher. Xianyu and Qing smiled. These days, she couldn't eat or sleep well. She was madly studying the latest alchemy technology, thinking that if the teacher's breakthrough was not completed and the abyss invaded, she could delay some time for the teacher. Fortunately, the teacher came back. She was always worried about the teacher and didn't notice that there were a few more strands of white hair on her temples. Teacher, it seems that I will never catch up with you in this life. Sun Xiaokong had a bitter face. Since he entered the door, his goal was to catch up with the teacher, but the distance was getting farther and farther. If he could see a little hope before, now he can only see despair. Catching up with the teacher is just a dream after all. Congratulations, teacher. Miao Tian's mentality is relatively relaxed. Teacher is awesome. Old Sixth Delusion directly pulled up the banner, danced the Zishui dance crazily, and kept shouting awesome. As for whether the teacher is powerful or not, It doesn't really feel much, but everyone thinks it's awesome, so as old 6, shouting awesome is enough. Xiao Qi stood there with a faint smile on his lips, as if he was fantasizing about something. The eighth brother was unusually excited, standing there with the coffin on his back, stirring up countless soul particles. So, I am the strongest second generation. Finally, the ninth sister Yuia, who was familiar with the new world, spent the least time with the teacher and was the most shocked. When she followed Su Xian, she knew that Su Xian had a high status. Later, she found out that the teacher was the strongest person. Now, it turned out that the teacher was the first person in the new world from ancient times to the present, and she became the strongest second generation inexplicably. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 444. The strange phenomenon of heaven and earth completely dissipated. Su Xian returned to the Shuiya Palace. At this time, almost 80% of the marquises and kings of the entire Blue Star gathered here. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Breaking the legendary limit, Your Majesty Su Xian is really the man of destiny born to meet the calamity of the Blue Star. With Your Majesty here, we are more confident in the upcoming Battle of the Abyss. Originally, everyone had no confidence in the Battle of the Abyss. After all, the power of the Abyss is obvious to all. Just the part of the combat power that can be speculated is beyond the reach of the previous Blue Star. Not to mention facing the entire Abyss next. Thank you all. Su Xian clasped his fists to everyone. His aura has been completely restrained, not as heavy as the Abyss before, but the sense of oppression on the strong is getting stronger and stronger. On the contrary, ordinary people will not feel anything. Su Xian boy, from now on, you have completely surpassed us old guys in both combat power and realm. The new era will be handed over to you. In the crowd, Bai Sha laughed carelessly. He and Su Xian are very familiar with each other and have a good relationship. He is not as reserved as others. No one except Bai Sha dares to call the number one person in the two worlds a kid. Let's leave it to my disciples. Su Xian smiled and looked at many disciples. You should also fight for your spirit. Your senior brother has broken through the semi-god realm. I hope you can catch up with him as soon as possible. Senior brother. The two disciples after Zioki Nicolin, Lao Ba Wuxin and Jumei Yuia, have never seen Zhang Mu, but they have heard of this name when they communicated with the master. Lao Ba didn't pay much attention. Jumei Yuia's curiosity in her eyes could no longer be concealed. What is the origin of the mysterious senior brother? He is already a strong man in the semi-god realm. Master. You said that Mu has reached the semi-god realm. Yin Xiaoshuang was the most excited to hear this news. She was also the only person who knew where Zhang Mu was besides Su Xian. You know, Zhang Mu is in the abyss. What does the semi-god realm in the abyss mean? Yin Xiaoshuang knew this very well. Only by challenging the previous Lord of the Abyss and becoming the new Lord of the Abyss could she reach that realm. Is Mewtwo already so powerful? No wonder her cultivation has soared recently and she has already entered the second realm of the king. She thought it was because she had awakened the heavenly frost body. Now it seems that the main reason is that Mewtwo broke through the realm too quickly. She was able to break through to the second realm of the king in such a short time by taking Mewtwo's express train. Suddenly she felt that it was not bad to have an extremely introverted boyfriend. The suffering she had endured with Mewtwo was not in vain. Of course, what made her happiest was not Mewtwo's realm. At the beginning, she was with Mewtwo, who was stupid, plain-looking, and not as good as her in cultivation. She just fell in love with this person. It is still the same now. What made her happiest was that the stupid Mewtwo who had accompanied her was coming back soon. Yes. Su Xian looked at Yin Xiaoshuang and felt very distressed. Xiaoshuang was also half of her disciple. She was polite and filial, and was loyal to Zhang Mu. 3,000 black hairs turned white for love. Thank you for waiting for so long. It's not hard. Yin Xiaoshuang smiled and shed tears. As long as Miu Miu can come back, all the waiting will be worth it. Xiaoli also came up, her big eyes full of excitement and curiosity. As one of the earliest disciples, she and Zhang Mu also have a deep brother-sister relationship. She remembers the days when they followed the teacher to play. She still remembers the first time they summoned a spirit pet. They also formed a cow-horse combination. Teacher, is the senior brother really coming back? Where did he go before? Because Su Xian has been keeping Zhang Mu's whereabouts secret, until now, other disciples except Xiaoshuang still don't know where Zhang Mu is. Yes, teacher, I am also curious about where the senior brother is. Xianyu and Qing smiled. She also liked this honest and simple senior brother. At that time, the senior brother drank the chicken soup she cooked with a bitter face. She still thinks that expression is funny when she thinks back now. Big brother is already in the semi-god realm. Sun Xiaokong found it incredible. When he first entered the sect, Big Brother was the least talented in the section. He could do nothing and could only rely on his efforts far beyond ordinary people to barely keep up with the others. I am such a failure. When he entered the sect, he was so proud. He basically ignored the other disciples and only wanted to surpass his teacher. Now he is being pressed to the ground by other fellow disciples in various aspects. It can only be said that the disciples taught by the teacher must have one good point. His good point is obviously not talent. Old. Miao Tian could only sigh. He worked hard to reach the third level of the king, but he didn't expect that the second sister and the big brother, one more perverted than the other, still left him behind. Old Six Mai Wang didn't have any emotion, but just shouted again, awesome. It seemed to have taken this as a catchphrase. When he saw something surprising, he said awesome. I don't know which blue star person he learned bad from. Little Seven Nicolin still looked like she was thinking and didn't speak. Teacher, please tell me. Xiao Li pulled Su Xian's hand and shook it left and right. If he didn't tell her, she would call him dad in front of everyone. Abyss. Su Xian said 2 words. The words fell in the crowd, but it was like a stone stirring up 1,000 waves. Including other Blue Star strongmen who have been listening on the side, most of the Blue Star strongmen have no impression of Zhang Mu, even King Wuan doesn't pay much attention to him. Zhang Mu left the impression on most people when he won the championship of the freshman group finals in the Global Higher Education Institutions Exchange competition. However, now that Su Xian's status has reached its peak, people are paying more and more attention to his disciples. Now everyone knows that Su Xian's disciples are all geniuses in their respective fields. Xiaoli, needless to say, is a super genius, and may not be inferior to His Majesty Su Xian in the future. Xianyu and Qing is even more famous in the 2 worlds. The alchemist, whose contribution to Blue Star is indelible, is now even honored as the Green God. In the field of alchemy, Xianyu and Qing is the god of Blue Star. Sun Xiaokong is very well known in the army, and he will definitely be a big figure in the army in the future. Although his contribution to the 2 worlds is not as good as the previous 2, he still has many small-scale wars. Records of turning the tide. As for Miao Tian, a super genius who was on par with King Wuan in his early years, left behind the legend of reversing and becoming king. He lived a muddle-headed life in his later years. After meeting Su Xian, he lived his life again, his mentality was sublimated, and his strength was greatly improved again. Now he is also a top king ranked in the forefront of Blue Star. As for the 6th, it seems that he is really not familiar. Few people have seen this 6th, but they know that the 6th is not simple. The means he uses are incredible and unheard of, and his combat power can also be compared with the top kings. The 7th Nicolin is a genius of the elves, and Her Majesty Moira is devoted to cultivating her. With the teachings of Her Majesty Su Xian and Moira, they know that Nicolin is destined to shock the world when she grows up. The eighth Wuxin is very strange. They have never seen what he looks like. It is rumored that he carries his mother's coffin and has a rare talent in soul ability, which can simulate everything. The 9th-ranked Crescent Girls senior management all know that this is the first genius of the new bloodline evolution system that is different from the professional system. With so many talented disciples, how powerful is the one who can surpass them and be respected by all his fellow disciples as the eldest brother? What has the former Zhongmu transformed into? Everyone is looking forward to it. Especially when it comes to the word abyss. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 445. You will know when he comes back. Su Xian smiled and didn't say much. In fact, the disciples can all enter the mind space to contact Zhongmu, but Zhongmu is too far away from everyone. It usually takes a lot of energy to enter the mind space, so they can only choose to give up. At this moment, Tian Baiyu, the former strongest demigod of Blue Star, walked over. His expression was quite heavy. Su Xian, I have a question I would like to ask you. Just say it. Su Xian didn't put on airs. Among all the demigods, except for Yan Wuking, who had some issues with him, he wasn't even familiar with the others. When your eldest disciple Zhongmu comes back, will he still be the same Zhongmu? The invasion of the abyss has long been doomed. Tian Baiyu only hopes that Blue Star can resist wholeheartedly and avoid any further setbacks. The party that was already in an absolutely weak position could no longer withstand too many twists and turns. Tian Baiyu's worry is also the voice of many powerful people. Will the Zhongmu who comes back be the same Zhongmu? They could see that Su Xian's disciples, including Su Xian, had deep feelings for Zhongmu. If Zhongmu rebelled against Abyss, what would Su Xian do? Now Su Xian is Blue Star's Optimus Prime. Mistakes can happen to anyone, but any change in Su Xian's body is fatal. Yes. Su Xian smiled and nodded. When he had no choice but to guide Zhongmu into the abyss, he also knew that Zhongmu's character could withstand the test of the abyss. If it were any other disciple, he would never choose this way. The abyss is a suitable place for Zhongmu to grow, where Zhongmu's characteristics can be brought into full play. Since Your Majesty Su Xianmian said so, I'm relieved. Tian Baiyu didn't bother too much. At this moment, I believe Su Xian is the best answer. You don't have to waste too much time with me. Su Xian said, now the purple energy of Blue Star has become more and more intense, and the time for the abyss to connect the two worlds is getting closer and closer. Please go back and stand at your posts. After entertaining everyone, Su Xian returned to the palace. In the small courtyard, Moira was lying on Lin Suying's belly, smiling and asking the baby in her belly to call her godmother. His Majesty Su Xianmian is back. Moira joked, now I finally have a relationship with Xiao Suying. What do you think? Su Xian asked with a smile. Before the two worlds merged, Moira sensed it and performed the most powerful prophecy in hundreds of years. It's impossible to calculate. Moira sighed. Can't you even figure it out? Su Xian didn't feel too panicked. From the moment he set foot on the road above the 99th floor, he no longer had any fear. The abyss invasion has only one outcome in his eyes. As long as you give him time, it will be a matter of time to defeat the abyss. Moira laughed again, but there is still news to tell you. According to the prophecy, the mother and son are safe, and the two little ones will not be affected by the invasion of the abyss. That's good. Su Xian breathed a sigh of relief. What he is most worried about now is naturally his two unborn children and his pregnant wife. Due to the proximity of the abyssal world, the world tree has grown fully again. The integration of the two worlds has caused a lot of the spilled world essence to be absorbed by the world tree. Now coupled with the great turmoil in the abyss, the world tree has grown to an extremely exaggerated level. The former Shuiya prince's palace had long been unable to accommodate the roots of the world tree. The entire Dingai King city has been transformed and continuously expanded in area. The overall area is already much larger than Longdu City, the first city in Blue Star. It's just that 1/3 of the city's territory is occupied by the world tree. The world tree will always be one of Su Xian's strongest trump cards. In the following time, Su Xian still went shopping and chatted with Lin Suying every day, and occasionally discussed the future situation and the upcoming war together. When alone, Su Xuans will think about the future. Seeing those projections on the heavenly steps was worth pondering for him. Those big guys all have various inheritances or back ups to stay in this world. What is the point of the big guys doing this? Is it simply to spread inheritance or wool? Or does every living world have a unique use for these bosses? Besides, who is the angler on the long river of time? Dad. Xiao Li came to the top of the world tree and sat next to Su Xian. His two big eyes blinked. Dad, are there new monsters coming? Yes, Su Xian nodded. Are you afraid? Don't be afraid. Xiao Li hesitated and said, can I break through like you? I feel like I can't suppress the breath in my body. Su Xian held Xiao Li's little hands in his palm. The latter's aura is indeed becoming more and more terrifying. Xiao Li, who has long been in the top king realm, can now step into the demigod realm at any time. This was still the case when Su Xian asked Xiao Li to deliberately suppress his cultivation. Otherwise, Xiao Li would have already broken through. It can be seen that Xiao Li is looking forward to a breakthrough. She said in anticipation, Dad, I can help you after I break through. I also want to protect my mother and my younger brothers and sisters. Wait a little longer. Su Xian had a premonition that once Xiao Li broke through, he would undergo a completely different transformation, and he didn't know what the consequences would be. But at the time when the abyss is about to invade, it is best not to have any more changes. Okay then. Xiao Li is still very well behaved. Su Xian did not let her break through, so she suppressed the breath in her body and the strong desire to break through. Thank you for your hard work, Xiao Li. Su Xian hugged his daughter. It's not hard, Dad. Xiao Li smiled brightly. You and Mom are hard-working, always busy. Xiao Li just wants to help Mom and Dad. If it causes trouble for you and Mom, then Xiao Li will definitely be able to bear it. Who can not love such a well-behaved daughter? Su Xian's heart is about to melt. After coming to this world for so long, his heart has long been integrated into this world. From the beginning, he just wanted to become stronger, to now he has many concerns. The road may become more and more difficult. But all these efforts have a worthwhile reason. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 446. New calendar year 504, February. In the Arctic Sea of Blue Star, there is a floating island on the sea. This is the monitoring base of the Blue Star Alliance for the polar environment. Due to the invasion of the purple air of the abyss, the once blue Arctic Sea has now completely turned purple, and the surging waves are like a giant beast that is ready to devour people at any time. No one knows what kind of horror is hidden under the deep sea. On the floating island, there are 2 demigods and 6 kings. The weapons equipped on the island are also the most advanced technology in the entire Blue Star. The abyss gives Blue Star too much oppression. There are always military warships patrolling in the Arctic Sea. As long as there is any change here, a distress signal will be sent immediately to the highest command center of the Blue Star Alliance. I don't know when the abyss will be completely connected with the 2 worlds. On the island, Yan Wuking looked at the surging Arctic Sea and was worried because the status of the Thousand Machine King had reached the top, which made him intentionally or unintentionally neglected. Even if the Thousand Machine King did nothing, he could feel that everyone was deliberately alienating him. Therefore, he took the initiative to apply to guard the Arctic Ocean, as a way to atone for the mistakes he had made. Boom! Just as he was thinking, the border of the sky seemed to be hit hard by something, and countless cracks appeared on that piece of heaven and earth, like a broken mirror. Here it comes. Yan Wuking immediately sent a communication. The powerful pressure from the abyss made Yan Wuking's face change. A huge tentacle emerged from the broken mirror. Spirit. Yan Wuking clenched his fists. The huge tentacle that just came out was just a spirit. The two worlds are connected. As long as they have not been completely integrated, the life of the two worlds must pass through the world channel to enter the other world. This is the case between Blue Star and Lauren Star, and it is also the case between the Abyss world. It's just that the strength of the Abyss Monarch is far beyond that of ordinary demigods. They are promoted through countless life and death battles. Even if they become monarchs, they are constantly accepting challenges. Or challenge stronger people. Their application of power is also far beyond that of ordinary demigods. In addition, due to the special nature of the Abyss world, the Abyss monarchs can let the spirits go first before the world channel is formed when participating in the world war. Blow it up. Whoosh. A missile flew out from the floating island and directly blew up the huge tentacle. Yan Wuking turned his head and saw a short-haired woman with a cannon and various technological weapons coming. Yu. Yan Wuking nodded to the other party. The Yu he mentioned is one of the two archer demigods among the many demigods on Blue Star. She is wearing the top technology developed by the Blue Star Alliance. The Soul Annihilation Cannon just now is one of the latest developed technologies, specially made to deal with the spirits of the Abyss. Kingshan's things are easy to use. Yu smiled. The Soul Annihilation Cannon in her hand was developed by Xianyuan Qingqing, the strongest alchemist on Blue Star. Ever since knowing that the Abyss is about to invade, Xianyuan Qingqing has been developing alchemical substances to restrain the Abyss and integrating them into technological weapons. But there are too few examples. A few months have passed, and very few products have been developed. The soul-destroying cannon is considered one of the strongest weapons. It's just a spirit, don't be too happy too soon. Yan Wuking said in a deep voice, I can feel their strength. I'm afraid that even the weakest Abyss Monarch is not something you and I can contend with. There are also strong and weak demigods. The demigods cultivated in the Abyss mode are obviously far from comparable to the two realms. If compared by the number of heavenly rank condensations, the monarchs of the Abyss may be able to reach the level of 70 or 80 heavenly ranks on average, while the Blue Stars are only about 50. Not to mention that the amount of battles during the growth of the Blue Star demigods is far less than that of the Abyss monarchs, and the Blue Star demigods basically no longer participate in battles after becoming demigods. The Abyss will constantly fight internally, which is incomparable. Yan Wuking, so you are afraid too? Yu chuckled, her short red hair fluttering in the wind. I thought you were really ruthless. Of course I am afraid. Yan Wuking said seriously, I am afraid that the country I have worked hard to protect will be destroyed by this purple storm. I am afraid that the brilliant and prosperous civilization I expect in my heart will disappear, and I am afraid that the spiritual world I stick to will be shattered. Oh. Yu looked relaxed. Another soul-destroying cannon was fired, smashing the Abyss spirit that wanted to invade. At this moment, they only need to wait for the world channel to take shape. The first step of the war between the two worlds must be the battle for the world channel. The extreme point of the collision will continue to spread, just like the battlefield between the two worlds before. Yu, if the gap is too big later and we are far behind, you will lead the people to retreat first, and I will cover the rear, Yan Wuking said while looking at the surging Arctic Sea. Haha. Yu laughed, Do you think I'm a 3-year-old girl? I don't need your protection. My artillery fire is the best weapon. Yan Wuking frowned. I'm serious. Yu Yu straightened his chest and raised his eyebrows. I'm serious too. Seeing this, Yan Wuking stopped talking. The world channel in the distance has gradually taken shape, and the troops stationed on the floating island are also ready. The familiar and unfamiliar way of fighting made them feel particularly complicated. They knew that the opponent this time would be more brutal than before, but the power of the Blue Star world was far from comparable to the past. With the 1000 Machine King Su Xian, hope will last forever. The difficult war was won before, and it can still be won this time. Woohoo, let's go. Yu Yu snapped her fingers, and a motorcycle warship with blue flames appeared under her. With her neat and tidy appearance, she looked very heroic. Yan Wuking, don't think too much, hurry up and catch up. Yu Yu narrowed one eye and made a shooting gesture with one hand. Baiu. The motorcycle warship passed through the water, bringing up a wave, and flew into the sky with a magical arc. Yan Wuking squeezed out a smile helplessly on his face. It was rare to see someone so naive even in the semi-god realm. It was really good to have such a mentality when life and death were uncertain ahead. Under the leadership of Yu Yu, the guards of the floating island marched towards the world channel. What they didn't know was that on the other side of the world channel, the abyss world invaded in a more brutal way. Even on the way to invade other worlds, the abyss monsters at the bottom were fighting each other just to grab a front charge position. The abyss life liked this feeling. Enter the world channel. Yu Yu gave an order and rode a motorcycle battleship to take the lead. With just a little observation, she knew that this world channel was superior to the previous super-large world channel, similar to the battlefield between two worlds, but smaller than the battlefield between two worlds. It seems that the situation is completely different when the new world collides. Looking far ahead, Yu Yu can see countless abyss creatures running wildly, as well as 2 abyss monarchs above the channel. That kind of breath is really terrifying. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 447. Deploy a protective array on the spot. The moment he saw the life in the abyss, Yu Yu's expression completely changed. She did not let the soldiers continue to charge to the core to occupy the best place, because the fighting method of the abyss life was different from what she imagined. The abyssal beings did not prepare any formations. These beings only had madness in their eyes without any fear. They seemed to regard them as food. She could even see those creatures that were too slow being trampled to death by those behind them during the charge. The abyss was far more cruel than she imagined. In the eyes of abyss life, it seems that fighting has always been a matter of enjoyment. Sensing the madness of their opponents, the Blue Star soldiers immediately installed defensive crystals on the spot. Human professionals were always at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, and the only thing they could rely on was technological formations. Are you scared now? Yan Wuking came to Yu Yu. Facing the Abyss Monarch, they could feel endless pressure. The Abyss Monarch's eyes had already locked on them, as if they were prey to be slaughtered. You assist me. Yan Wuking spoke and rushed forward. Hey, aren't you scared? Behind Yu Yu, all kinds of technological weapons were unfolded, and the cannon barrel in his hand turned into a super form. I'll fight even if I'm afraid. Yan Wuking's body was covered with red flames, and his body was covered with armor. With the determination to face death, he resolutely faced the 2 Abyss Monarchs. Human race. Tasty. The Blood Wolf Monarch was born into the Werewolf clan and was naturally bloodthirsty and warlike. With his talent and hard work, he fought his way through the 12th Abyss and eventually became the Blood Wolf Monarch. He struck out with a palm, and the wolf claws tore apart the space, causing the passage to tremble. Just one stroke. There were deep scratches on Yan Qingqing's armor. You must know that his armor is of mythical quality, and it was actually scratched so deeply by a single attack. The other monarch did not look for him, but went straight to Yu behind. Abyss monarchs disdain to hunt the same prey at the same time, especially when the prey is very weak. They will only break this rule if the prey is so powerful that all the monarchs have a desire to hunt. Whoosh! Yu raised his cannon and aimed at the two monarchs to blast them wildly. It may seem like a chaotic attack, but her guidance is very precise, and almost every attack goes straight to the opponent's vital points. Ice. The Ice and Snow Lord raised his hand. Boom! Above Yu, the icicles covering the sky fell instantly. Fortunately, the motorcycle battleship under Yu was very fast, and it took her out with a single jet. During the flight, several more cannonballs were fired. While restraining the Ice and Snow Monarch, she also did not forget to support Yan Qingqing, who was completely suppressed and beaten. Freeze! The Ice and Snow Monarch's movement speed is not fast, far inferior to that of Yu, but her casting speed is incredibly fast, without any warning. All are instant. As soon as the word freeze came out, Yu felt cold all over. The opponent actually cast the spell directly on her body, which proved that the opponent's mental power completely crushed her. Yu felt cold all over. We can no longer support Yan Wuking. She glanced at Yan Qingqing, who was completely suppressed by the Blood Wolf Lord, and silently prayed in her heart that this eldest brother would wish him well. Facing the Ice and Snow Monarch, she did not dare to be distracted in any way. The Ice and Snow Lord's methods could kill her at any time. No matter what, they must survive the first wave of invasion from the abyss. If they cannot survive the first wave, no matter how strong Su Xianmian is, he may not be able to save himself. Bring it on. Behind Yu, all kinds of technological firepower are in full swing, such as spirit-killing cannons, god-killing guns, blood-sealing rays, sky-falling thunder. Countless technological weapons completed exquisite coordination in her hands. Relying on these things, she was barely able to struggle with the Ice and Snow Lord for a short time, but as time went by, her decline was still hard to conceal. The Ice and Snow Monarch made her realize what ultimate combat control is. Whether it is the timing of the shot, the control of the power, or the accuracy of the spell, it is completely beyond her ability. The opponent is very powerful and can use 99% of his power perfectly. And she can use up to 70%. This is the gap. The longer the battle lasts, the more obvious this gap becomes. Tomb. Finally, as Yu's fatigue showed, the Ice and Snow Monarch seized the opportunity, and the power of Ice and Snow directly attached to Yu's right arm. Puff! Yu immediately cut off his arm without any hesitation. If she slowed down even a little bit, she would be completely frozen. Losing an arm does not have a big impact on a demigod, but in a battle like this, a slight difference is enough to determine the outcome. Yan Qingqing and Yu only had despair in their hearts. The gap is too big. They are both demigods, but their control over the battle is far inferior to that of their opponents. Are you going to lose like this? Beyond the Arctic Sea, other places in Blue Star, Antarctic ice, Middle Eastern waters, southeastern forests. Abyss passages appear in countless areas. Although Blue Star was prepared, it was still beaten by the brutal Abyss-style attack. The low-level battlefield was okay. With the powerful technological weapons in hand, today's low-level battlefield can effectively resist. In terms of high-end power, Blue Star is far inferior to Abyss World. The demigod is no match for the monarch. Even the king and marquis realms were no match for those lords. Above Dingai King City, Su Xian stood on the top of the world tree. He did not immediately join the battle, but just looked in a certain direction. He was looking for the biggest collision point. That point was destined to be the breakthrough point for the strongest person in the Abyss world. He could not be distracted at all and had to enter as soon as the biggest collision point was formed. Even though he now had power far beyond other demigods on Blue Star, there were still unknowns in the face of the invasion of the Abyss. According to Zhang Mu, the 8 strongest monarchs in the Abyss had strength far beyond other monarchs. He did not know how the realms were divided, but those 8 were the biggest threat to Blue Star, and his current target was these 8 Abyss monarchs. One world channel after another opened, and Su Xian turned a blind eye to it. He sat on the top of the world tree with his eyes closed, sensing the state of the entire Blue Star. Until a certain moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, and at that moment it seemed as if the whole world trembled, and the biggest collision point between the 2 worlds appeared. The new battlefield between the 2 worlds is likely to appear there. Whoosh! Su Xian disappeared from the spot. With the world tree, there were no more world passages near the entire Dingai King city. Lin Suiying was absolutely safe here, so Su Xian could fight with all his heart. The 8 oldest monarchs of the Abyss world. I seem to be looking forward to it. Su Xian's fighting spirit burned in his heart, and he also wanted to try to see what level he had reached now. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 448. Blue Star Equator, Primitive Forest. The dense forest was shaken by the huge energy shock wave, and instantly turned into nothingness. The rolling spring water fell from the sky, and everything was destroyed wherever it passed. The Abyss Spirit appeared. The demigod guarding the equator was terrified. The terrifying pressure of the yellow spring made his liver cold. The feeling of suffocation and oppression of the soul was something he had never experienced before. How could it be so strong? The guarding demigod retreated frantically. The power of the spirit alone made it difficult for him to contend. If the world channel was opened and the body descended, he would probably be wiped out by the opponent in an instant. The guarding army also showed despair. If the general combat power of the Abyss was so strong, then Blue Star would have no hope of winning. In a short time, after the yellow spring spirit, another light and shadow flashed by. The speed was extremely fast. Before the guarding demigod could react, there was already a blood mark on his neck. Then, his soul seemed to be pulled out by something, and he felt exhausted and his eyes were dazed, as if he was being pulled into a dream world. Puff! While he was still a little sober, he immediately hit himself on the chest with a palm, and barely woke up. The moment he woke up, a great fear spread in his heart. If this continued, he would die here without even seeing the true body of his opponent. What a humiliation that would be! Could it be? Until this moment, he finally realized that the Abyss commander who invaded from the equator was probably the oldest monarchs in the entire Abyss. Other Abyss monarchs should not be so strong. With the thought in mind, he shot away into the distance, but was intercepted by the bloody hell that suddenly descended, and saw a huge hell hand that was about to crush him alive. Swish! The next second, the spear pierced through the bloody hell and broke the huge hell hand. Leave this to me. Su Xian spoke calmly, his eyes ignoring the 7 spirits in front of him. You are just a spirit, not worthy of fighting with me, get out. He waved his hand, and the magic sword Apophis burst into a destructive edge, and with just one sword, he chopped all 7 spirits into pieces. Is this the true strength of His Majesty Su Xian? The guarding demigod was completely shocked by this scene. The Abyss spirit that almost forced him into a dead end was actually chopped off by His Majesty Su Xian with one sword. His strength and His Majesty Su Xian's strength are obviously not in the same dimension. Thank you, Your Majesty. The guarding demigod knew that staying here would only cause trouble for His Majesty Su Xian. I will go to support other battlefields first. Su Xian nodded, and the guarding demigod flashed and disappeared in an instant. In the distance, the cracks between heaven and earth expanded little by little. The power of time and space intertwined. In the most intense collision between the two worlds, everything on earth was shattered, and only Su Xian was wearing armor and waiting quietly in the wind. You, go too. Su Xian looked at the trembling guards who stayed there. Your Majesty, we may be able to help you. Let us stay. Although the guards were afraid, they did not leave immediately. No, I am enough here. Su Xian's voice spread faintly, other places need your support more. Seeing this, the garrison had no choice but to leave. Near the equator, which was swaying in the wind and rain, only Su Xian was left standing there, looking at the primitive forest being swallowed up bit by bit, without any fluctuations in his eyes. I don't know how long it took. The world channel was completely formed. The world channel that had just been opened expanded wildly at an extremely terrifying speed, with thunder and lightning inside, and chaotic energy raging throughout the battlefield. When the battlefield between the two worlds just appeared, it was also like this. Whoosh! Su Xian was too lazy to wait any longer, with silver light flashing around him, and he single-handedly rushed into the unstable world channel. Similarly, at the other end of the channel, several of the oldest monarchs of the abyss could not wait. They sensed the powerful aura at the other end of the channel. This breath ignited their inner desire to fight that had been dormant for tens of thousands of years. Su Xian turned into a stream of light and was the first to stand on the dividing line in the center of the battlefield. In front of him was a large rift valley that was randomly spewing chaotic energy. His eyes passed through the gushing chaotic energy. There were a total of 7 figures in front. Surprisingly, the abyss creatures behind these ancient monarchs did not rush in frantically, but waited for something in the back. Su Xian. We should call you that, right? The Yellow Spring monarch looked at Su Xian and slowly said, the abyss world has been paying attention to you for a long time. You are the strongest in this world, right? As long as you are killed, this world will be vulnerable. Facing the provocation of the Yellow Spring monarch, Su Xian smiled lightly and said, are you missing one? The 8 oldest monarchs of the abyss, Yellow Spring, Qi Meng, Light and Shadow, Bloodkill, Golden Cicada, Devouring, Black Feather, and Candle Dragon. His eyes swept over, if I guess correctly, there is still a strongest Candle Dragon monarch who has not come. The 7 of you may not be enough. Ha ha ha. The 7 ancient monarchs laughed wildly. This monarch has not heard such a joke for a long time. The blood-killing monarch said, remember a long time ago, we devoured a world similar to your world of life, where there was also a human race. She was the strongest in that world, and brought us a lot of trouble, but in the end she could not escape the fate of death. I hope you can give us some surprises. If you can make this monarch feel the beauty of death, it will be more interesting. As you wish. 3 swords and 1 knife floated behind Su Xian. Flowing Star Meteor Knife, Demon Sword Apophis, Mirror Flower Water Moon Sword, Kinji. All 4 weapons trembled. They were ignited by the will of the master, and truly exerted the brilliance of the ultimate mythical quality weapons. Let me go first. The blood-killing monarch had 3 heads and 6 arms, and a mouthful of bright red fangs was extremely ferocious. The other 6 monarchs silently stepped back. They wanted to see if the strongest life on Blue Star was worthy of their joint efforts. Blood-killing. Su Xian recited his name, if I remember correctly, you are on the 101st floor, can it be understood that you are the weakest among the 8 ancient monarchs? As soon as the words fell, Su Xian disappeared from the spot. Buzz. Accompanied by the sound of a sword, the blood-killing lord flew backwards, and the earth of the channel was torn apart by the sword energy, stretching for hundreds of miles. The already unstable world channel trembled again. The surging chaotic energy started a more violent rampage. The faces of the 6 monarchs watching the battle changed slightly. Just one move. Bloodkill fell into a disadvantage. It seems that the strongest life on Blue Star has gone a long way on the 99th level of the sky. Su Xian, you have successfully aroused the interest of this monarch. The blood-killing lord was repelled, but his mood was extremely excited. He had not experienced such a feeling for a long time, and he couldn't even remember when he last experienced such a refreshing battle. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 449. The only thing that responded to the blood-killing monarch was the endless gravity. Now Su Xian could travel through space at will, and it only took him a very short time to create a small shuttle wormhole. This time was almost negligible. In terms of speed, he completely crushed the blood-killing monarch. Bloody hell! The blood-killing monarch was angry, and summoned the blood-killing hell to descend in an instant, wanting to challenge Su Xian in his own domain, but was broken by the purple sword of destruction. Swish! The sword of destruction almost cut through the scales of the blood-killing monarch. With every sword and every move, Su Xian's power was absolutely restrained, without wasting any energy. Such a high-precision battle, even if blood-killing was one of the oldest monarchs, could not bear it. The sword shadow tore above the sky. The blood-killing monarch was in a state of decline. He kept roaring and wanted to fight back, but it was difficult to even touch Su Xian. Boom! 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 You pissed me off. The sound of the blood-killing lord's heartbeat exploded throughout the venue, and his blood vessels were clearly visible, and one could even see the blood circulating rapidly. In this state, the blood-killing lord's strength and speed were greatly enhanced. At the same time, he could absorb the blood energy on the battlefield to restore himself. What is this? Su Xian frowned, and he felt a familiar breath. A smile finally appeared on his indifferent face. Chaos Ore. It was the Chaos Ore that greatly increased the blood-killing lord's strength just now, and the blood-killing lord's application of the Chaos Ore was far greater than that of Daisy and Tolo before. The blood shadow flickered, and the blood-killing lord was finally no longer suppressed by Su Xian. This Su Xian is very strong. The monarchs who were watching the battle stared at the two sides fighting in the sky. He is so strong in just his normal state, even stronger than the Nine Heavens Queen. That's what makes it interesting. The Light and Shadow monarch laughed. If he is too weak, how can we enjoy the pleasure of fighting? Blood killing won't last long. The Yellow Spring monarch analyzed. Su Xian can tie with blood killing in this state without any other external objects. If the opponent also uses the Chaos Stone, blood killing will probably not last long and will be killed. The Chi Meng monarch also said, according to the information I have obtained, this Su Xian has not participated in many battles, and it can even be said that he has participated in fewer battles than all the Blue Star demigods. Without enough combat experience, his accuracy in controlling power is 3 points better than ours, which is enough to prove that he has a combat talent far beyond ours. The Light and Shadow monarch stepped forward. Let me try it too. The Light and Shadow monarch disappeared on the spot. What he is best at is speed, not space travel, but pure speed. He is absolutely sure to hit the opponent before any opponent travels through space. Swish! The arm of the Light and Shadow Lord was a sharp lightsaber, which swept in front of Su Xian in an instant, but was easily avoided by Su Xian. The burst speed is so fast. The Light and Shadow Lord was surprised. Not only was the speed of space shuttle so terrifying, but even the speed of instant burst was not inferior to his. Under this absolute speed suppression, it was normal for blood kill to be abused. The addition of the Light and Shadow Lord accelerated the battle. The swords and shadows were everywhere in the sky. Their battles were under absolute precision control. But as long as any power leaked, the unstable world channel would enter a more chaotic state. Not enough. Su Xian controlled 3 swords and 1 knife to suppress the 2 monarchs. Come again. This time, he did not wait for his opponent to slowly come on the field. The 1,000 machine spear in his hand shot at the several monarchs who were still watching the battle. This was undoubtedly a huge provocation. The ancient Abyss monarchs had never suffered such contempt. When will it be the opponent's turn to choose them? The Yellow Spring Lord and the Crazy Dream Lord also joined the battle. The Yellow Spring Lord manipulated the rolling yellow spring, and the yellow spring water had the power to corrode everything. The Crazy Dream Lord was good at the soul illusion. He could easily pull a life into the soul illusion, and even manipulate the dreams of weak souls, causing the other party to die quietly in the dream. However, as soon as his power touched Su Xian's mental power, he saw only a blue lotus blooming. His power was completely isolated by this lotus. The Yellow Spring Lord's corrosion was also completely isolated by Su Xian's body, and the opponent's strong physique was not afraid of his methods at all. The Abyss Lords were more and more surprised. After fighting for so long, the opponent did not seem to show any shortcomings. Whether it was speed, strength, physique, or the accuracy of combat control, they were superior to them. Su Xian was more like an enhanced version of their combination. It's really exciting. If Su Xian was born in our Abyss world, he might be able to compete with Lord Zilong, or even be stronger than him. It's been a long time since I've experienced such a hardy battle. Everyone who wants to fight, just do it. If you wait for Lord Zilong to come, the battle may be over, and there will be no fun. The stronger Su Xian is, the more he can arouse the Abyss Lord's desire to fight. Lord Jinchen, Lord Devouring, and Lord Xuanyu also joined the battle one after another. Faced with the siege of the 7 ancient Abyss monarchs, Su Xian finally fell into a disadvantage. The defense of the Golden Cicada monarch was extremely terrifying. Even if the defense of the Golden Cicada was penetrated, the opponent could immediately avoid the damage and escape from the Golden Cicada. The Devouring monarch had an extremely terrifying devouring power. This monarch could devour all forces, but it was just a matter of how much to devour. The Black Feather monarch was similar to the angel family. He had a pair of huge wings. The feathers could not only attack, but also defend, and could penetrate from a long distance. He was the only omnipotent monarch among the monarchs. The 7 ancient monarchs joined forces, and there was almost no flaw. Su Xian was suppressed step by step. At this time, he had already opened the mythical quality equipment to the strongest state, but he still couldn't resist the joint efforts of the 7 monarchs, and this was when the other monarchs did not use the Chaos Stone. Is the limit of the normal state stopped here? Su Xian thought in his heart, and black vortex patterns appeared on his hands. In this case, he would open the second state to see how far these ancient monarchs could push him. Zilong, one of the 8 strongest Abyss Lords, has not yet made a move, so he must keep some cards in his hand. The black vortex expands. The Chaos Stone black hole is open. The Chaos Stone black hole itself does not provide high combat power to the user, but as the battle time goes on, the black hole will show its terrifying control ability. This is also the reason why Su Xian made its characteristics like this. No matter what kind of opponent he faces, he has the confidence to delay it and let the Chaos Stone black hole play the maximum effect. I hope the ancient Abyss Lords will not let themselves down. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 450. The power of the Chaos Stone black hole is constantly expanding, and its influence on space and energy is also growing at a terrifying rate. In this state, Su Xian's advantages in all aspects have been pulled back. So strong. While Huangquan Lord manipulated Huangquan to continuously attack Su Xian, he was secretly surprised in his heart. He could feel that his opponent's use of the Chaos Stone was also better than theirs. Su Xian seemed to be able to perfectly exert the power of the Chaos Stone. 7 to 1 is not enough. At this moment, the ancient Abyss Lords finally panicked. The opponent formed an absolute crushing on them in all aspects. Such a perfect control of the realm, every move and style of attack made them suffocate. "Don't hold back!" the Swanyu Lord shouted angrily and also opened the power of the Chaos Stone. His Chaos Stone is called Sharpness. The main function is to make each of his feathers reach an extreme attack power and have a sharp edge that can break through everything. Whoosh! 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 Countless feathers shot out. Su Xian manipulated the mirror flower water moon sword, and his swordsmanship was so fast that it was impervious to water. All the feathers were easily blocked by him, and he could also distract himself to fight with other monarchs. None of the ancient monarchs of the Abyss expected such a result. As the most powerful representative of the Abyss, he was actually cut off in the world channel. This was the first time in so many world wars. The 7 monarchs all opened their strongest state. The world channel continued to collapse under their battle. The entire world channel was completely filled with chaotic energy, and all kinds of rare treasures were destroyed in the battle. Su Xian did not hold back at all. This is the result he wanted. The more the world channel collapsed, the smaller the channel that the Abyss could invade. As for what the final result would be, he had no time to consider it. The battle continued. Almost every corner of the channel was affected by their battle. There is a weakness in the life bred under the rules of the Abyss. They will not take a strategy to admit defeat first, and then separate to attack other places. If several monarchs of the Abyss did this, the current situation would be much more serious. No matter how powerful Su Xian is, he can't force these monarchs to stay. Fortunately, these monarchs cultivated under the rules of the Abyss have a sense of pride in their bones. They will never take a detour unless they defeat the opponent in front of them. Even if they die here, they will not retreat at all. The most intense battle between the two worlds began like this. No one is willing to take a step back. Either die or win. Arctic Sea. Whoosh! A beam of aurora emerged from the world channel. Yu Yu was driving a motorcycle battleship. Her right hand and right leg were all missing, replaced by a short-running mechanical arm, and her body was also covered with blood stains. Behind the motorcycle battleship, Yan Wuking, who had almost half of his head knocked off, was on the verge of life and death. The battle in the channel has been decided. Yu Yu and Yan Wuking lost miserably. If it weren't for Yu Yu's certain advantage in speed and the assistance of technological weapons for escape, I'm afraid they would have been buried in the channel. Even so, the result is not much different. The two men had almost completely lost their fighting power. Yu Yu relied on the spirit bomb to barely trap the Ice and Snow Monarch and the Blood Wolf Monarch, but the opponent would soon catch up. But Yu Yu did not escape. Instead, he came to the floating island and prepared to open the prepared god-killing bomb. Facing the powerful Abyss Monarch, this was the only way to win. Wait. At this moment, a voice came from outside the floating island. Looking at the person coming, Yu Yu showed a happy expression. "Qing Shen, why are you here?" The supporter was Su Xian's third disciple Xianyu and Qing. Xianyu and Qing drove the upgraded version of the Justice Messenger, and a new set of technological weapons were also installed on the Justice Messenger. Since she got the Chaos Stone fusion, she has been developing weapons to deal with it. Yu Yu used only the first batch. Now she brought the second batch, which has a new and stronger means of upgrading. Among them, the power from the world tree is integrated. With the great fusion of the 3 life worlds, the scope of the world tree's influence is getting larger and larger, and it is no longer limited to Dingai King City. Leave it to me. Xianyu and Qing handed 2 bottles of different colored potions to Yu Yu. Drink the red one, it can quickly recover from injuries, and give the blue one to Yan Wuking. If it weren't for the overall interests of mankind, I really don't want to save this guy. Yu Yu smiled bitterly and said, "This guy has tried his best this time, so just spare her for now." Yu Yu expressed his understanding. At the beginning, Yan Wuking wanted to get rid of Su Xian's daughter Su Zili, who was also Qing Shen's second senior sister. It would be strange if Su Xian's disciples could have a good impression of her. Qing Shen, have you developed a new weapon? Yes. Xianyu and Qing nodded, but this thing still has great limitations for the time being. Only I and my disciples can use it, and no one else can use it. The will of the world tree will not recognize everyone. Among the disciples, the world tree most recognized Zili, who was the first to take the world tree fruit, and even respectfully called him the little master. This treatment is not enjoyed by other disciples. However, as the world tree continued to grow stronger, other disciples were finally able to borrow the will of the world tree and gain a short-term boost in strength. That's what she did. Under Yu Yu's gaze, Xianyu and Qing slowly set up a turret. At this time, the Blood Wolf Monarch and the Ice and Snow Monarch in the World Channel had also rushed out. Lock on the target. Xianyu and Qing narrowed her eyes and looked at the two Abyss Monarchs in the distance. Her heartbeat was very fast, which showed her excitement at the moment. Whether she could kill the Abyss Monarchs depended on this shot. Lock complete. The branches and leaves of the world tree were compressed in the shells. As long as the power of the branches and leaves of the world tree was burst out in an instant, the distant world tree would be able to sense it. A short induction can communicate and drive the world will of Blue Star. Using the power of the world will to destroy the Abyss Monarch is undoubtedly the most effective way. As for whether it can work, Xianyu and Qing didn't know. Fire! 2 blue shells were fired at the 2 Abyss Monarchs. At the moment when the shells exploded, the huge world power descended instantly. The world here was chirping. This was the awakening of the world will of Blue Star. The 2 Abyss Monarchs only felt unprecedented pressure. The attack condensed by the world will had already fallen on them, blasting the 2 into the Arctic Sea. Suppressed by the will of the world, the 2 Abyss Lords felt the threat of life and death, but fortunately the Abyss rules in their bodies provided some protection for them. In the end, they were only seriously injured, but their lives were not wiped out. Did it succeed? Yu Yu looked at the sky that was split by the will of the world in shock. The power that burst out just now might be enough to kill a demigod like her. It lacked a little power. Xianyu and Qing shook her head. The Abyss Lord is more difficult than expected. You should take a rest for a while. The next battle may still require you to take the lead.